You got your pencil in hand. You're in front of your workspace. Okay, let's do this. Blank. Welcome to being a beginner in animation. Honestly, welcome to the rest of your life as an animator. Learning to actually animate is much harder than sitting down and animating because you don't even know what to do or what will even help you to learn to animate. In my 10 years of animating, I think I barely just started understanding how to actually learn animation. I'm going to help guide you to the most important lessons I keep encountering in my journey of animation. The quicker you start encountering these questions and lessons, the quicker you will improve as an artist, animator, and as a person. Why do you want to animate? This is a question that may seem super simple to answer at first, but as you progress in your animation journey, you'll realize that there's more to this question than it seems. Not just because you're questioning your life choices and going down this path, but because you're like, why am I okay with this? I like to look at animation as a form of self-expression and self-improvement. If you're going down this path because you think it's an awesome job that will make you a lot of money, or because it's just like a dream job and you only want this job specifically, that will be the #1 way to make you realize that maybe animation isn't for you. Do you really want to do this? Animating for TV is basically dead in the US because the US is a pre-production, post-production factory, while all the actual animation is outsourced to Korea, Canada, Europe, etc. Industry animators' compensation is complete dog shit because streaming has regulated everything to gig work. Therefore, you can't get union pay. Studios are eating themselves alive, canceling tons of animated productions for tax write-offs and just laying people off because they want more money. This is causing an already competitive and difficult job market to break to become even smaller than it already is, making it even more hopeless to break into it, including for some veterans who are already begging for jobs. That's assuming the robots don't take over by then, and the guild negotiates a contract that states no guild member's work may be fed to the company AI without written consent from said animator, as well as lifetime royalties if the agreement is met. It's gonna happen, I'm telling you right now. Negotiate that shit now because they're probably already using your work to feed to their proprietary AI, so you no longer have a job and they don't have to pay you anymore. Unless you're GDT or Gendy Tartovsky, pitching an original IP is basically impossible because you are nobody. They don't care about your brand. They want stuff that'll make them money. Independent animation has essentially been stomped out by the modern algorithms because you need constant content and you need to get insane view counts in order to make a little bit of money. So in order to be a successful independent animator, you have to A, be a personality and a content creator like I'm trying to be, gain traction, start a Patreon to pay your bills, and or fund a mini production. B, already have a following and crowdfund a project. Or C, work a day job with enough time to work on personal projects and content projects so you can make money on both ends. Or a combination of the three. Either way, you're at the mercy of an algorithm, maintaining popularity, and or limited funds in a world that never stops asking for more money. I just do it because I like it. Even with all that in my mind, I still want to break into the industry and I'm still trying to. Because I just like doing this. We all do that thing where we feel down on ourselves, check whatever social media and see a clip of some animation legends animations or like a Sakuga clip, whatever. Then you think, I will never be that person. Why do I even try? You know what? You're right. You will never be that person. Just like I will never be Takeshi Koike or Glenn Clean, you will never be those Sakuga animators. But you know who you are? You. You are you, and I am me. And that's amazing. And you can be as good as you allow yourself to be. You may even be better than those greats someday. But right now, and I mean this in the nicest way possible again, you suck. And that's okay. You literally just started animating. It's not fair to compare yourself to someone who's been doing this for 5 to 10 years, just like it's not fair to compare yourself to someone who's been doing this for 30 to 60 years. Understand that you are still learning and getting the hang of things. And quite frankly, you always will be. I've been doing this for 10 years and I still feel like I have so much to learn and honestly want to learn. Everyone's journey, both artistically and professionally, is different. So just focus on you. And when you see some of that beautiful work, just say, that's awesome. I'll get there one day, my way. So how does one actually learn to animate? You don't. The truth about learning how to animate is that no one really knows a true way of how to learn or even teach animation. This is coming from someone that's read The Illusion of Life and the Animation Survival Click on their own volition. That's right, I'm a loser who read 2 textbooks on their own free time. And that's before I even went to college for animation. It's just something you kind of do, and then like after 3 months of doing, you're like, oh whoa, I'm animating. So then how can I show you how to learn to animate? What did I do for it to click so well, or to even click a little bit? What is the relevance of me putting this clip of myself playing the bass? Is it to show you I can do other things? Because learning to animate is like learning an instrument. There's an amazing guitar theory video by Lyle Rath's Sounds Goodish channel called How to Get Good at Guitar. He brings up this beautiful point.
You want to channel that guy at a party that sees a guitar and just goes, oh, yo, check it out. When you're doing this, this is not practice, but what it is playing guitar. You're defining what does it sound like when I play guitar.
Yes. Just like picking up the guitar and playing Iron Man poorly is defining what it means to play the guitar, so is you making a bouncing ball, or a really bad walk cycle, or doing something you know you can't even do but trying it anyway. This is what I mean by just doing things. There is a difference between practicing and doing. Sometimes doing is practicing, and sometimes practicing is doing, but they should and will feel different. And as important as just doing is, so is doing those mind-numbing, what feels like time-wasting exercises to build up your fundamentals. You think I crave to do this? No, but because I practice that exercise, I can do this. Do you honestly believe that there are guitarists out there in the world that can't wait to do spider exercises to a metronome? Of course not. What are you, stupid? But because I did that, I can do this now. There is just no way around it. You do just kind of have to eat your vegetables and learn those fundamentals. And I will give you guys some animation exercises to help you get started with your fundamentals and how to practice that. Hey man, what's going on?
Well, I've been trying to learn how to draw apples, but I just can't get it right. I just can't imagine it in my head.
Oh, well, have you tried looking at that apple over there and just using it to help? Oh, no, that's cheating. Do you know what the first thing I did is when I got my guitar in middle school? I learned to play the Mario Bros song, but what did I actually just do? I learned the guitar via reference. The first thing every musician does is learn their favorite song, or try to. If you take any sort of classically trained class, it doesn't even any course for learning music, they will give you a ton of songs to learn on top of other scales and fundamental things you should learn. When I do this, what did I actually just learn? I did arpeggios, finger picking, 4/4 timing at what it can sound like, chord progressions, how the key of A minor sounds, note timings. You get the idea. I learned all this from learning someone else's song. And if you tell any musician that you just learned, you'll get one of two responses. If they are a normal functioning human being in society, they will say, dude, that's awesome. I love that song, man. And if they're an asshole, who doesn't know how to play that song, man? Learn something different. You know what guy doesn't exist? You didn't write that. Thief! You're not a real musician. You're not playing the guitar, bro. You're not playing the guitar. You're not learning. Then why does that guy exist in the drawing world? That guy sucks. I hate that guy. Why are beginner animators so opposed to reference? Okay. Do you know what any seasoned artist and animator will tell you when you ask them, Mister, how do I get better? Did you try looking at stuff? Using reference? That means looking at something, copying it directly, and that includes tracing. Not wanting to look at things is like not wanting to listen to music while learning an instrument. That's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense. How do you think Da Vinci got so good at painting? He unironically thought to himself, damn, have I just tried looking at these things? Then he got a ruler and looked at more of his subject than his paper and realized looking at things gets you better results. He literally mathematically proved how to correctly look at it and draw it more accurately. You have to understand how something moves in reality before you can create something that moves in thin air. Understanding the rules of motion within reality is important because that's how you can break the rules better and become a better animator. Do you know how guys like James Baxter, Takeshi Koike, and whatever Sakuga animator you like got so good at animating those crazy intricate things? They've literally looked at so many things move, have used so much reference that it's just engraved in their head and they're like, oh, I know how to do that. And they just do it. Animation is a visual medium. How is not looking at things move and breaking them down not going to make you a better animator? That is the whole point of animating, to make something interesting to look at. You have to look at things to make things move. You are looking at your animation, are you not? So look at other things. You want to know why those tutorials on how to animate water aren't clicking or helpful at all? Because you're learning how that guy animates water, not how to animate water. What better to learn than from the source itself? You can't learn to animate without a single piece of reference, just how you can't learn an instrument without learning a single song. There are a million different types of ways to use reference. These are the 4 I mainly stick to. You can use these 4 types of reference for both an exercise and practically to get a scene finished. More importantly, using reference will help you understand why your animation is looking off because you have the reference right there to see what you want it to look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to name them off and I'm going to show an exercise I did for myself and show what I learned based off what I did with this exercise. Partially blind contour. Blind contour, what is that? Blind contour is a life drawing exercise where you 100% are only looking at the subject and your pencil never leaves the canvas, creating a piece that is one giant line. The whole purpose of this exercise is to teach you to look at things and commit to your strokes so you're not constantly erasing. Just going and being okay with that is key to animating. It's both to build confidence within yourself and become one with your pencil. Partially blind contour allows you to peek at your canvas for a few milliseconds and lift your pencil as well versus making one giant line. For blind contour to work for animation, I like to put the clip next to my canvas and then just play it frame by frame until what I believe is the most important frame and just go. Now, let's look at my partially blind water splash exercise. Off rip, it looks like liquid, but it doesn't feel like water. I chose way too many high impact frames and they last a little too long, so it feels more goopy. It doesn't have the smoothness and liquidity of water. All because I use reference, I can spot what I did wrong and try to fix it later. I am learning how to animate water by doing this. This type of reference I really only use for practice. I don't really use it practically very often because it's just, there's more efficient ways to get a scene out than using partially blind contour, but you can. Rotoscoping. Rotoscoping is where you trace over already shot footage. There are 2 types of rotoscoping I like to use, so let's focus on the one that I really like using. Partial rotoscope. I call it partial rotoscope because you basically just trace over either the key poses within the clip or every 8 to 10 frames. That way you still have some room for interpretation when you're finally using that reference in your own way, if that makes sense. I use this type of reference all the time, whether it's because I need to crank out a scene or just because I want to practice choreography stuff. Partial rotoscope will really help you understand what a keyframe is and what a smear is. But more importantly, it will show you how many frames of animation you don't need to sell the illusion of motion. Let's look at my action reference I chose to partially rotoscope. Look at how well you can see the smears on the actual footage. Anything that isn't a hyper smear is basically a key pose. And look how much animation is sold strictly based off these poses. Look at how many frames I'm not animating, but you can still make out it's a dude doing martial arts fairly well. And then I chose to add some of my own in-betweens at my own discretion and it made it look a little smoother. Don't worry about form and consistency right now, just worry about getting the essence of the motion. Now, let's look at my other partially rotoscoped animation of my fire study. I already know why it looks like a bunch of tree branches twisting. Fire is more than offset S-curves. Fire moves up. My line weight has no variation, it does not move up, it's all flat in one line, so it doesn't give that illusion properly. And I also didn't even create any buildup or reset in my loop, so my loop is fucked as well, further selling that this isn't fire. I can see this all from just using reference as to why my animation doesn't look like fire, versus being like, I don't know, it just doesn't look like fire. What do I do? How do I make it look like fire? You just look at fire. True rotoscope. Ah yes, the devil. Tracing every frame. Real cheating. Why would anyone that calls himself an animator actually want to use this? If you're one of those people that wants to do those insane Sakuga shots with ton of raw animated camera movement, you're gonna rotoscope a lot. There is no way around it to learn that stuff. True rotoscope will really help you understand active foreshortening as well as active rotations that you will need for those Sakuga shots you want to make. Look at my little truck and shot reference. I can already see how the little throne is foreshortening, how the lines go behind them. This is why a lot of these Sakuga guys love animating blocks and cubes, because you can see and feel the foreshortening with those cubes. You can see the lines going under them. And honestly, rotoscoping your favorite animated scene with simple shapes is such a good way to understand arcs and staging, as well as breaking down an animator's process or even why a scene works. I love this slow-mo shot of Jigen barely dodging a bullet to the face, but what makes it look so good? The head reeling back is only a few frames and it's like on 3s, but because the hair is flowing much smoother and slower along with the hat and the slow-mo bullet, it really sells this shot as an actual slow-mo shot versus a dude snapping back from the bullet. I learned this all from breaking down the scene with a shitty little arc and a couple of frames. The biggest flaw of true rotoscope is if you want to use it practically, it can leave your animation looking a little too human. That's what I like to call it, because it doesn't have the vibrance of something that's truly animated from scratch. But if that's what you want for your scene, then it's perfectly fine. That's totally up to your discretion as an artist. Acting. Acting is the most impressionistic of all the types of references because your creativity will fill 95% of these blanks. This is the simplest to do but the hardest to master. This is where you get a mirror and literally act out how you want your animation to look like. You are using yourself as reference, breaking it down, and literally feeling the animation. This is what all the animators in the 40s used to do. They would have a literal mirror next to their desk, make weird faces, do weird poses, get back on their desk, and then just draw it out. This form of reference will give you the most expressive and animated motion since you're going off your literal intuition. But the fatal flaw of this type of reference is you will only get that animated and real good look if you have that intuition. You should definitely always act out your animations on top of using reference. Just know as a beginner, you're going to be doing a lot of thinking as to why it's feeling wrong versus doing. In an animation, you kind of want to just do things. I want to animate a dog being sad, right? Obviously, I'm not a fucking dog, and I don't want to berate my dog because that's incredibly abusive and fucked up. So, what do? I'm going to look up a reference photo of a dog, draw it, and then draw 2 key poses of how I want it to end, and then I'm just going to do this in the mirror constantly. The little recoil at the end is a little stiff, but beyond that, it looks like a dog feeling sad because I acted like a dog feeling sad, and I feel like I got that feeling. I don't draw dogs, I draw people, so I'm happy with this. If I do want to make it better, probably give a little bit more extension to the arc so he kind of like snakes in, then give a little bit more fluff to the final little ear thing to make it cuter. Half the fun of playing guitar is learning your favorite song, so trace your favorite scene, man. Trace your favorite Sakuga scene. It doesn't matter, it's for you. This is all for you. You should be practicing for yourself and want to get better for yourself. All right, let's get into exercises. I'm just going to briefly run through these because these are just exercises and they're kind of mind-numbing. Do not worry about the terminology right now, just do. Beginner exercises. Blade of grass. The blade of grass exercise is where you animate a single blade of grass connected to a dot on the ground waiting in the wind. This will help introduce you to the backbone of animation, the S-curve. You can do a cycle like mine, or maybe you want to challenge yourself and do something like a subtle breeze or hurricane-like wind, but I would recommend just sticking to the cycle. This will help introduce you to timing, weight, arcs, and consistent drawing. The bouncing ball exercise, the classic. Need I say more? This will help you learn timing and spacing, squash and stretch, arcs, straight ahead or pose to pose depending on how you want your ball to bounce. And if you want more of a challenge, add a tail to the ball, make the ball bounce away from the camera then toward from the camera. That is the bouncing ball with tail exercise. Intermediate exercises. Head rotation. This is where you get a character of your choice or a character you made up and make its head rotate. This is actually a lot harder than you think. You will probably get some warping on your first try, but that's okay. They're just exercises to help you practice. This will help you with solid drawing, pose to pose, appeal, spacing, and potentially active foreshortening. I will give you a tip. If your character is symmetrical, you only have to animate half a rotation. Advanced exercises. Walk cycle. This is where you make a character walk. A walk cycle encapsulates all the 12 principles of animation. You have to make a walk that's appealing and tells who the character is, as well as spaced out and arced correctly so it doesn't look all weird and janky. This is something you're either going to find very easy like I do, or you're going to be incredibly annoyed and hate your life every time you try a walk cycle because it's so mind-numbing, complex, and annoying. If you're having trouble with this, there is an amazing resource called Fighter's Generation that has sprite rips from every fighting game known to man. What I would recommend doing, download any Marvel vs. Capcom X-Men sprite or Marvel Superhero sprite, any Third Strike sprite, any ArcSys sprite, whatever. Import those to a sprite, break it down, and try to apply it to your walk cycle that you're having trouble with. Flour sack exercises. According to my professor, this is what they used to use to test out animators in the 40s. Essentially, you create a scene with flour sacks. You are displaying true animation fundamentals by bringing these flour sacks to life and creating whatever scene with whatever ingenuity you have with these boring ass items. This will introduce you to actually crafting a quick scene as well as acting with context and staging with context. And all these exercises just to give you something to do so you can at least have an idea of what to practice or have something to practice. I know they seem like a bunch of miserable time wasters that you shouldn't do and should do something else, but I thought the same thing. Trust me, I was you. And now I'm telling you to do that stuff because now I'm like, oh wow, that actually did help. And if you guys want me to see your exercises, just use the hashtag chorizo size because it's an exercise made by me. I do love seeing people's work. I think it's super cool and it's really important to post your stuff. And finally, just some resources to top this off. And Sosie Salaryman Game Action is a phenomenal channel if you want some studies for action choreography. There's a whole community of Japanese action choreographers, but I stick to this guy because he does like Devil May Cry stuff and I love Devil May Cry. Either way, if you're going to use his choreography for a study and you're going to post it, please, please, please give him credit. This guy is doing God's work. It is the least you can do. I've already brought it up, but I cannot stress how useful Fighters Generation is for walk cycles, action reference, just animation studies in general. I use this website so much. I just love looking at things and breaking them down. Google, yeah, I mean, that shit is amazing. And you don't have to use other videos as reference. You can also record your own reference. Disclaimer, do not do anything you can't physically do. Do not hurt yourself. Just record yourself doing things you can physically do. Please be safe. Final thoughts. Believe it or not, guys, if you haven't noticed, there is a running motif in this video. You should want to animate for yourself first and foremost. And you shouldn't compare yourself to others in a medium that everyone picks up and approaches very differently. You will only learn in a way that works for you. For me, it was breaking down animation like how I broke down music, and I hope that made it a little more digestible for you guys as well. Once you understand all that inspirational mumbo jumbo, you can begin to animate comfortably and consistently. With all that in mind, referencing and looking at things in general will be your biggest help in getting better at understanding and creating movement. There's no shame in looking at stuff. Animation is a visual medium. You have to look at stuff. That's how this works. So don't be afraid to copy, trace, rotoscope, whatever. It's just practice. And with all that fun stuff as well, those mind-numbing exercises are just a necessary evil for you to get better as an animator. They have such a great payoff down the line. And honestly, if you're ever bored and don't know what to do, they kind of do kill the time fairly well. And they also help in seeing how much you progressed. It's a good way to attach yourself and compare yourself to your previous self. This is all for you, man. I know it's been a while since I dropped a video, but dude, we're animating. Oh my god. I'm so happy. We're not talking about computer bullshit for once. I say it all the time, but I really do hope this was helpful. I really want to destigmatize using reference as a beginner. I don't know why it's so frowned upon in drawing. I really do appreciate you guys watching my videos. I work really hard on these and they make me so happy. Thank you so much.